Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a bright but silent afternoon. The October sun bathed the streets in a soft light, almost too beautiful for the heart of Clara Johnson, a mother who had carried the weight of an unbearable absence for 10 years. Her 8-year-old son, Ethan, had tragically disappeared in an accident from which she would never recover. Since that day, her life had been a succession of emptiness and regret, every corner of her house reminding her of her child's lost radiance. To channel her pain, Clara had found a routine. She now devoted her time and money to charity. That day, she had decided to make a donation to a local orphanage, a place she had often overlooked until now. The orphanage, Hope and Light, was modest but warm, with children's laughter that seemed to pierce the veil of her sadness. As she wandered through the common room to hand in her contribution, her gaze was caught by a little boy with striking blue eyes. Her heart stopped for a moment, then began to pound. The boy, he had the exact same look, the same mischievous smile as her Ethan. "Excuse me," Clara murmured, her voice trembling. The boy turned, staring at her with curiosity and a surprising flash of recognition for a child who didn't know her. "Mom?" he asked, his voice both soft and shaky. Clara felt the ground give way beneath her. 10 years of pain, sleepless nights, and heartbreaking memories seemed to converge in an instant. Was it possible? Was it really him, her son whom she thought lost forever? At that precise moment, the orphanage became the scene of a miracle that Clara would never have dared to hope for. The son she had mourned for a decade stood there, alive, before her, ready to transform her life into an unexpected second chance. But behind this miracle lay a mystery. How had Ethan survived? Why was he in that orphanage? And above all, how could a decade of separation and suffering be repaired? It was the beginning of a story where happiness and sorrow were intertwined, and where every answer would have its price. Clara couldn't tear her gaze away from her son. Every detail seemed perfectly familiar, the curve of his nose, the mischievous glint in his eyes, the dimple in his cheek when he smiled. Yet, this boy was only 10 years old, and it had been exactly 10 years since she'd last seen him. Her heart pounded, and her hands trembled as she stepped toward him. "Ethan, is that you?" she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. The boy nodded with quiet confidence. "Yes. Mom, it's me." Tears flowed uncontrollably. She held him close, time seeming to stand still around them. The laughter of the other children at the orphanage had faded, replaced by an almost sacred silence, as if the universe itself were holding its breath to observe this moment. "But, how?" Clara stammered, her throat tight with a mixture of joy and confusion. "You were." I was told." Ethan looked at her with a gravity that belied his age. "I know, Mom. I've been far away, but now I'm here. There are things I need to tell you." Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. She realized that this miraculous return was only the beginning of a more complex and mysterious story. The orphanage, until then perceived as a simple refuge for children, suddenly became the starting point of a tale she could never have imagined. "Can we sit down?" asked Ethan, leading his mother towards a small bench in the garden. The wind played in the trees, creating dancing shadows on their faces. Sitting side by side, they exchanged a look heavy with 1,000 emotions. Then, softly, Ethan began to tell his story. "After the accident, there were people who wanted to help me but also protect me. I couldn't come back, not yet. But they always knew that I would have to find you one day." Clara listened, torn between the joy of seeing him again and the growing anxiety that arose as each word revealed a deeper mystery. Who were these people? Why had Ethan been hidden for so long? And above all, why now? As they were talking, the director of the orphanage, a man in his 50s with a gentle but serious face, approached. "Clara, I'm sorry to surprise you like this, but there are things you need to know about Ethan and why he's here." Clara's heart sank. She understood then that the real journey was only just beginning, a journey of revelations, secrets, and trials that would put their maternal love to the test. And in the silence of the garden, mother and son stood there, bound by a tragic past and an uncertain future, ready to face together the mysteries that had separated their lives for 10 long years. The sun was beginning to set, tinting the sky with shades of orange and pink, but Clara saw none of the beauty of twilight. Her mind was completely absorbed in her son's story. They were sitting in the headmaster's small office, surrounded by toys and children's drawings that seemed unreal in this moment of tension and revelation. The headmaster, Mr. Harrison, sat down opposite them and gently placed a hand on Ethan's. "Clara, it's time you knew the truth. These last 10 years. Ethan hasn't simply been lost or disappeared." Clara felt her breath catch. I'm listening." Ethan took a deep breath. "After the accident, there were complications. People who had their own reasons for protecting me. I wasn't safe in my previous life, Mom." The director continued. Ethan was placed in a special protection program. He lived in various foster homes and orphanages, but he was always monitored and protected. No one was to know his identity, for his safety. Clara felt a mixture of anger and relief. Anger at the secrets, at those stolen years, but relief knowing he had survived. She took Ethan's hand, squeezing his slender, familiar fingers. "You suffered, alone, all this time." Ethan nodded. "Yes, and I thought about you every day. But they taught me that I had to wait for the perfect moment to come back." Clara felt her tears fall silently. She wanted to scream her pain, her frustration, but she also understood the need for caution that had guided these 10 years. "So, why now? Why am I here today?" Mr. Harrison exchanged a serious look with Ethan. "Because now he's safe, and the danger that separated him from you is gone. But there are still things you need to understand, people who wanted to keep him hidden, and secrets about this family that could change your life." Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. She had found her son, but the world around them was more complicated than she had imagined. The reunion, miraculous as it was only the beginning of a path strewn with mysteries, hidden truths, and difficult choices. For the first time in 10 years, Clara felt a mixture of fear and hope. Fear of what she would discover, but hope of making up for lost time and rebuilding the bond broken by a decade of secrets. Ethan, seeing her expression, whispered, "Mom. I know it won't be easy, but I want us to be together. No matter what we discover, I'll never let you go again." Clara, holding her son close, realized that the real ordeal was just beginning. She not only had to understand what had happened, but also protect her son and rebuild their life together, all while facing truths that could shatter everything she thought she knew. The next morning, Clara and Ethan left the orphanage together, hand in hand, but Clara's heart was heavy. She felt that the director's explanations were only part of the story. Why had her son been hidden for so long? Who were these mysterious people who had protected him, or kept him away from her? Back home, Clara searched through her old diaries and letters left by her family and friends in the years following Ethan's disappearance. Each page was filled with painful memories, but some notes seemed incomplete, as if someone had deliberately erased details. "Mom," Ethan said softly, watching his mother engrossed in her papers, "there's something I need to show you." He took a small, worn notebook out of his bag. Clara frowned. "What's this?" Ethan handed it to him. "This is my journal. I've been writing in it since the first day I was placed in the protection program. It contains everything I've experienced, everything I've learned, and some people you need to know." Clara carefully opened the notebook and began to read. Each page revealed a life of solitude and courage, but also disturbing clues about individuals who seemed to have obscure intentions. Names appeared repeatedly: Mr. Caldwell, Ms. Whitman, and others whose faces were unfamiliar to her but whose actions had shaped her son's life. "They hid me, to protect me, but not only that," Ethan whispered. "Some wanted to control me, Mom. And I think some of them are still out there, somewhere, watching us." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. The joy of seeing her son again was now intertwined with fear. She understood that the danger had never truly left. Someone had wanted to tear their family apart, and now that Ethan was back, those people could try again. "We must be careful," she said finally, her voice trembling but determined. "But I promise you, Ethan, this time, I will never leave you alone." They spent the rest of the day poring over the newspaper together, discovering the ordeals her son had endured and the clues about those who had orchestrated his disappearance. Every word, every detail strengthened their bond, but also underscored the urgency of uncovering the whole truth before it was too late. As night fell and they were about to rest, a muffled noise at the door startled Clara. She exchanged a worried glance with Ethan. Someone was watching them, or worse, someone had come looking for answers. The long-buried past was beginning to catch up with Clara and her son. And this time, their miraculous reunion could quickly turn into a race against shadows determined to separate them once more. The days that followed were a mixture of wonder and anguish for Clara and Ethan. They were rebuilding their relationship, sharing laughter and imagined memories to fill the lost decade, but a shadow hung over every moment of happiness. The names discovered in Ethan's journal kept replaying in their minds: Mr. Caldwell, Ms. Whitman, individuals who had manipulated his life. One afternoon, while Clara was preparing dinner, a faint rattling sound at the window caught her attention. Her heart pounded. Ethan, who was playing in the living room, looked up and whispered, "Mom, they're here." Clara didn't want to panic, but her protective instincts took over. She grabbed the phone and dialed Mr. Harrison, the director of the orphanage. Within minutes, he arrived with a young private security guard, ready to assess the situation. "They don't know we found Ethan," Mr. Harrison explained, checking the surroundings. "But some want to make sure he can never come back to you." Clara felt anger boiling inside her. 10 years of lies and secrets, and now these people still dared to threaten her son. "Then we'll confront them," she said, her voice firm. "We've waited too long to let this destroy us again." That night, with Mr. Harrison's help, Clara and Ethan devised a plan to confront those who had orchestrated his disappearance. They started with Mr. Caldwell, an influential and cold man, responsible for placing Ethan in the protection program for personal and dubious reasons. When they arrived at his imposing office the next day, the tension was palpable. Mr. Caldwell looked up, surprised and angry. "How dare you?" he began. Clara, her hands clutching Ethan's journal, let no emotion betray her fear. 10 years. 10 years since you stole my son. And now you're going to explain everything. Ethan stepped forward, looking the man straight in the eyes. "I'm alive. I'm here. And I'll never let you decide my life again." Under pressure and the courage of mother and son, Mr. Caldwell finally revealed the truth. Ethan had been hidden not only to protect him from potential enemies, but also to manipulate and isolate him, hoping to control his life for financial and personal reasons. Clara felt anger and pain mingle with a profound sense of relief. The truth had finally come out. But she knew this was only one step. The other players in this scheme were still free, and their safety would depend on their vigilance and determination. That night, mother and son returned home, exhausted but united. For the first time in 10 years, Clara felt a glimmer of true hope. They had rediscovered their lost love, confronted the shadows of the past, and now, nothing could separate them. But deep down, she knew that this path to peace and reconstruction would still be fraught with obstacles, and that every moment of regained happiness should be cherished as a fragile and precious miracle.